Well, this is an interesting thought that I think everybody needs to know. Just because you have debts this morning, it does not mean that you don't have rights. And here to tell us more and continue our Counsel's Corner series that we do with Debt Relief Legal Group is Alan Borden. Good to see you again, Alan. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Carly. How are you doing?
Good, good. I love this point because I know a lot of people have debt, right? But I think a lot of people may not really realize what their rights are. So talk a little bit about that, Alan, and kind of ease some concerns, because I know it can feel like a lot of pressure coming at you from a lot of different angles.
Right. So what I'm hearing a lot of feedback now is a lot of people who are going through the pandemic and they're being laid off or unemployed. They're falling behind on their credit cards or the medical bills, things like that. So the creditors are starting to call, and a lot of people feel victimized, that they're being called all the time. They don't know what to do, how to handle it. But I'm here to tell you, look, you do have rights. There are two actually great laws, one in the state of Florida and one federal law, that help protect you and set out exactly where the limitations are for creditors. Some are examples like they cannot call you before 8 a.m. or after 9 p.m., things like that. They can't threaten, harass you, use vulgar language, threaten violence, pretend that they're police officers or some kind of government entity, or pretend to be an attorney if they're not actually an attorney. It goes even so far as they can't misrepresent themselves. Like, for example, if they were to say, well, if you don't pay us tomorrow, then we're going to file a lawsuit next week. Well, if they don't file that lawsuit the next week, then what they said wasn't to actually collect any money. That was just to scare you to pay. So the law is very in detailed, and it gives you a lot of rights. Now, one of the things I would recommend to people is if you want to stop the calls, there's really two ways to do it. One, get their information about where they are, who this creditor is, what their address is, and send them a certified letter that says, hey, I don't want you calling me anymore. Any correspondence I want written. And by law, they have to abide by that. They can't call you anymore. If they do, it would be a violation of these consumer protection laws. You can also, if you retain an attorney, as soon as you retain an attorney, if a creditor calls, you can pick up and say, hey, I have an attorney, call my attorney. Legally, they can't call you anymore. So that gives you a certain amount of protection from those phone calls. Now, there are legitimate collection companies, and then there are a lot of scams out there.
I was just going to ask that. I'm shocked to hear that. I mean, obviously, if you're having to bring this up, you're hearing this from people that they're being harassed like this.
Yeah. And unfortunately, in places like evictions, when it's a little more personal, like the landlord actually knows you, and they're suffering too, things get out of control. And I've seen all kinds of really vulgar language coming out of those kind of situations. But there are also some scam artists out there. For example, one of the most popular ones nowadays is two. One is someone pretending to be the IRS who's calling you and asking you to pay a certain amount of money before they lien all your assets. Just a quick note: the IRS doesn't call you; they send you letters. They will never call you. And the second thing that I've seen is people calling saying they're from the Social Security Administration office and that your Social Security is about to expire or it's going to be limited in some way. Those are all bogus calls. There's no way your Social Security expires. But it's a lot going out there. And that's why it's good. You have consumer protection attorneys who will give you free consultations. If you have anything like that, call one up. You can call me or call any other attorney out there and give them the scenario. They'll explain it to you and they'll walk you through it.
So we have 30 seconds left, and that was my question. How do you know when to call? How do you know when you say, okay, this is extreme, or I need help with this?
Yeah, it's that gut feeling when it crosses the line. And that line can be different for different people, but a lawyer will explain to you whether, if they're calling you 3-4 times a day, that's generally okay. Once it starts reaching 6, 7, 8 times a day, and you keep answering and telling them, hey, look, I don't have the money, then they have to stop and give you some time. And that's when an attorney will fill you in on those things. But it's always good to talk to an attorney just in case, because if you have a case, then you can go after them and get money from them, and all your attorney's fees will be covered by them too.
Well, we've been showing the website, the number there. Again, I just think it's important for people to know that they have rights as well. There is the information there. Thank you so much for your time this morning. We really appreciate it, and so happy to hear that there is help out there.
Yeah, thanks for having me.